The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
All right, coming up on today's verdict, as adults, we have rights granted to us through our federal and state constitution, and when we have those rights violated, we're quick to speak up. But what about our children? Who speaks for them, especially when it comes to adoption? Do they have a say? Well, we dedicate tonight's show to our youth by giving them a summary of their constitutional rights when it comes to being placed in another person's home. It's an important show, so stay tuned. Today's verdict starts right now. Hello and welcome to today's verdict, the live show that gives you your legal rights and options. I'm your host and trial attorney for the next 30 minutes, David Lesh. Well, before we get into the show, let's take a look at this video on children's rights from Germany's on YouTube. We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will continue discussing the rights of our children in the area of adoption and beyond. We'll be right back.
Jimmy can't sing,
and Tommy can't dance,
so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww.
Kids will spend 22 minutes watching us, the super duper party troopers, sing about ants in their pants.
Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they got ants in their pants, they got ants in their pants.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Barry, time is running out. According to my calculations, 1 in 5 kids in America struggles with hunger. How can so many children face hunger when there's more than enough food to feed them all?
Babadoo.
You're right, Barry. We can help solve hunger by teaming up with Feeding America to get food to hungry kids in communities across the country.
Help Flint and the Feeding America network of food banks get food to the people who need it in your community. Find your local Feeding America food bank at feedingamerica.org/hunger.
Together, we're Feeding America.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back to today's Verdict. I'm David Lesh. Remember to stay in touch with us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can always see past episodes on bronxnet.org. On the phone with us is Judy Lacose, a lawyer specializing in parental alienation and emancipation cases. Hi, Judy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. All right. Well, our show is really dedicated to the youth of our city. So I just want to start off, and I don't know, what rights a child has with respect to custody issues, custody proceedings, and I know you do custody work. Could you walk us through a little bit in terms of a typical custody proceeding before we talk about what rights a child may have?
Sure. I mean, when filed for custody, and there's an Supreme Court, they're usually heard, and custody or visitation is typically the court will assign a lawyer to represent the voice of that child. And a lot of people, litigants will think, well, I can talk to that lawyer, and the lawyer will hear what I have to say. That lawyer is just like any other lawyer and represents that child or children. The role of that lawyer is just as if any other lawyer is to protect the rights of that child and to be the voice of that child in the court. And it's interesting enough, I've seen so many cases where children are so much more mature than the parents or the adults involved. And I'm not going to sit here and say that the choice of the child is the end-all. It's not, because, after all, they are children. The standard that the court uses in these circumstances is what is the best interest of the child. The child's wishes is one factor in that.
Well, Judy, in law school, you basically hit on it. You talk about the BIC, the best interest of the child. The attorney is there to protect the child.
Right.
Is there also sometimes maybe a guardian or a guardian ad litem who also steps in as well, or is it really just the attorney who's helping represent?
No. They never want to be called guardian ad litem. Guardian ad litem is completely different from that of the attorney for the child. They are, in fact, guardian ad litem has a whole different role, and that's usually when, my understanding is when the person is incapable of making the decisions for themselves. Guardian ad litem would assist them in that role and would be assigned by the court. But this is completely different.
All right, so so somebody who's under 18 wouldn't be considered to be unable to make their decisions for themselves and need a guardian ad litem. No. That's what the lawyer's there to protect them.
Right. But here's the difference. The parents still have the right to make that decision for that child. The only role that the lawyer has is to articulate, if I may, what the child wants in that situation. So, for example, if the petitioner comes and says, well, my child says that he or she wants to come live with me, the respondent says, well, no, she told me that she wants to come and live with me. So basically that attorney, the attorney for the child, would articulate to the court what the child's position is. If the attorney for the child can actually question the child if there's been any issues of domestic violence, where the child's been living. In my experience, a lot of attorneys for children do not really directly ask them where they want to live. Some will. They will often address the issues that are brought up by the parents.
Does the child, if the child doesn't agree with the decision of the court, does the child have a right to appeal? Can the child bring his or her own witnesses and have their attorney present the witnesses? Is it a trial type of proceeding?
Absolutely. Attorney for the child can actually bring witnesses in the event of a trial or a hearing. The attorney for the child would often recommend or would consent to what's called an in-camera interview with the child. Typically, in a custody visitation divorce proceeding, the child doesn't really testify in the presence of their parents. What typically happens is the child is brought into chambers where there's a court reporter, the attorney for the child, and the judge.
All right, well, let's say, a decision's been made and the child is now primarily with one parent and maybe there's visitation. And let's say the child, not the parent, but the child wants to change the way things are. Can the child go back to court through the attorney to reopen the matter, or does one of the parents have to do that?
Typically, it's one of the parents. One of the parents would have to file a petition for what's called a modification in the custody or visitation order, and then would have to, provide notice to the attorney for the child, and litigation would ensue.
Does the power of the child to make their own decisions or try to influence the court, does that increase as the child gets older? In other words, does a 10-year-old have less say than a 14-year-old who has less say than a 17-year-old?
There's been a lot of case laws to that effect. There's most case law, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but most of the case law indicates that as a child gets older, especially a child who's in his teenage years, that child's wishes would carry a lot of weight. But the child under 10, it wouldn't really count. It wouldn't really carry so much weight. It would be one factor in deciding custody and visitation.
All right, let's talk money, all right? A child needs money for school or for different activities. Can the child force the parent to pay for certain types of expenses? I know we saw something that was going on recently in the news.
Yes.
Does this happen in court?
No, typically not in family court. It doesn't really happen. A child really can't, unless you have, like I said, that's the situation where she has a guardian ad litem appointed, and a child under 18 is presumably living with their custodial parent. The custodial parent has the right to ask for child support. In the state of New York, you get child support until your age is, you're 21 or emancipated. So, if you're not living with a custodial parent and you still are not earning a full-time income, there's ways to go around getting, child support. But it's on a case-by-case basis. There's no real case law today. Typically, what happens is the custodial parent has the right to file for child support.
Well, what kind of rights is the child looking for? When the child's talking to the attorney, what does the child want? I know he or she wants to live with a particular parent, maybe, or does the child want to travel? And does the child want to be able to make his or her own decisions? What exactly is the child looking for many times?
My experience has been a lot of these children come into court, and through their attorneys have articulated a position where honestly they don't want their parents to fight, and they just want to live happily. A lot of times, there's very rare instances when I've seen, a child has said, it's adamant that I want to live with one parent or the other. Typically, and I've seen a lot of children who have good relationships with both parents will say that they want to see both their parents. And the attorney that's assigned to these children are obligated to represent their client's position, and their client is the child. They can put on the record that they don't necessarily agree with the child's position, but that's taken into consideration. If the child says, I don't want to go here, typically the attorney for the child would articulate that.
What tips would you give to a particular parent who's watching tonight and has a custody proceeding? What's the best advice you would give them in terms of their own child?
You know, you have to be very careful that you don't involve the child in litigation. One of the things that over the years that a lot of judges have told me is they cannot stand when the child gets involved in adult matters. The courts frown upon that. You shouldn't really tell the child that you're filing for a petition, that you want to live with one parent, because that goes into the genre of parental alienation. You don't want to create a situation where that child feels obligated to support one parent or the other.
And I guess we know it's all about the best interest of the child. Well, Judy, I want to thanks very much. Thank you for being here. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Today's Verdict after this.
Kids will spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Mom, can we get some ice cream? Please, Mom, please.
No, we're having dinner soon.
Please.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
All right, well, welcome back to Today's Verdict. Our next guest is no stranger to our show, as he was recently on set to give us a brief insight into the world of child adoption. And now Pat O'Brien is back with us to discuss the upcoming statewide adoption conference happening this weekend. Pat, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, let's go right. I want to talk a little bit about You Gotta Believe. Tell us a little bit more about. Tell us about the organization.
Oh, well, You Gotta Believe is an organization I founded about 19 years ago. We started out as a homelessness prevention program, because the single greatest way to a form of preventable homelessness is get kids aging out of the foster care system into permanent families. So I started an agency where we found lifetime families in permanent homes and adoptive homes for kids 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, where are these children when you find them?
They're currently in the New York City foster care system. They're living in people's houses, in foster homes. They're living in group homes. They're living in residential schools. They're living in hospitals.
All right, just so the viewers understand this,
Yeah.
we have situations where children many times either don't have parents, are taken away from a parent
Right.
because of whatever reason, abuse, and they're placed into the state's custody,
Yes.
who then may place them into a private agency and monitors it, but
That's
they're
right.
basically in the care of the state.
Yes.
Right? Now, at this point, they're with a family.
Right.
Right? When do you come in there?
We come in when it's determined that the family that they're with or the institution that they're in is not planning for their future. So, because every kid needs these permanent family long after their years in foster care are over. Some foster parents are temporary, and the kids that need a lifetime family, basically we ask the question, where's Johnny going to live when he ages out of foster care at 18, 19, 20, or 21? When the answer is, I don't know, they need a service like You Gotta
Believe. So
Believe.
let's say somebody, they're 14 at this point,
Right.
and they're still with a family, and they seem to be getting along with the foster care family. You don't really come in there yet.
Well, no, we would if it's determined that foster family is not keeping them beyond their years in foster care, we want to make that foster family our ally in helping us find a permanent home for that child.
How do you find that out?
Well, an agency would let us know, but also if a 14-year-old is living in a foster home, that means they're living in a community, they're living in a neighborhood where they have connections and attachments, and we look to those people to make lifetime commitments.
Okay,
to the
so
kids.
now let's say they're, I don't know, 18.
Right.
And it's time to move out. Okay, time to move on, and there's no plan for them.
Right.
What do you do?
We look at who's in that kid's life and we develop a plan for them. Because in this day and age, you can be a 22-year-old college graduate and you're returning home after college. And 18 is practically a baby in terms of being self-sufficient. And those kids need an adoptive home just as much as a baby who gets adopted.
Is there actually a legal age that, you know, the process is considered you're still a child and you're an adult? Is it 21? Is it 20?
Well, technically,
20?
18, you're an adult. 21, you age out of the New York City foster care system, but there's never an age where you can't be adopted and be a member of a permanent family. So the organization that I started, you got to believe, recruits lifetime families for kids up until their last day in foster
All right,
care.
so now you decide that you want to help a particular child, and do you interview whatever relatives are around? Do you go to the neighbors? Do you go to the school? Where do you go?
Yes, relatives, neighbors, school. We have teachers that do it. We have teachers' aides that do it. We have older cousins that weren't available when they were younger do it. There is no end to the possible pool of people that are involved in kids' lives. But what we want to do is orientate them toward permanency and coming up with an adoption mindset as a parent, that this is a lifetime commitment. It's not just until 18, 19, 20, or 21.
So let's say this person is 18 and you know, they're going to school and they come back and they want someplace to stay or live.
Right.
The family or somebody that you find to take this on, are they legally obligated once they sign on for this, or what are they signing exactly?
I mean, it's a moral obligation up until they age out of the foster care system, and then they can actually do what many of our families do. They do a legal adoption after the adoption itself wouldn't cut back a bunch of services that exist between the ages of 18 and 21.
So by 21, they can stay on if they want to. And
Well, that's what
to.
adoption is. Your family is there forever. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the adoption process. Tell me about it. And what do you do? Is it a petition? Do you get lawyers involved? Do they do it themselves?
Well, in this age range, anybody that we find, even people who are watching this TV show right now, they should sign up for a learning process. They should sign up for an orientation and then take a 10-week class about whether this is something that they might consider doing. So many people after
where do they find this out?
I can give a phone number if that's
sure,
okay.
Please.
They can call us at, you got to believe it, 718-372-3003, and we give orientations in all 5 boroughs. And we can sign them up for a class that's starting soon. I mean, every month we have classes going on.
Now, I assume there's a vetting process here, right?
Well, that's the learning experience. The learning experience is the vetting process, because what we want people to do is vet themselves out. But we think everybody who has any interest in this can take this learning process. And a good portion of the people decide, this might not be for me, and maybe they can help out in some other way. But also a good portion of people say, I'm very interested in doing this. Because they didn't come with the I need a baby approach. They came with, I want to serve children and I want to help the most needy. And of course, the most needy are the ones on the verge of aging out, which means they're facing homelessness real soon.
Well, give me a success story. Give me an example.
Oh, well, actually, you got to believe new executive director. She adopted two teenagers who are already 18 in 2008. Now, these guys are 24 and 25, and they're still getting their lives together, and they are very fortunate to have a mom like our new director who is there for them and really pushes them to do what they need to do.
Now, I know your organization helps keep this going. Is there any kind of financial incentive to help people take this on, or they just they're financially supporting these 2 kids on their own?
Well, I mean, after 21, it's just like custody custody is over, child support payments is over. Prior to 21, there is assistance from the state. So it's just like real life, and that's why kids need families as soon as possible, so that there is assistance until 21, and then there's other things that parents do for their kids after 21.
Now, I know there's a statewide conference coming up. Right? Let's tell us a little bit about it.
And that's the major role that I'm here today. I'm the president of the New York State Citizens Coalition for Children. We do an adoption conference every year in New York State. It's a conference that educates adoptive parents, foster parents about a variety of issues that parents need to know about. And anybody can sign up for it. It's Friday in Albany and Saturday in Albany. And there's just a variety of interesting workshops. There's about how to deal with your teenager, how to deal with legal rights. I mean, to this day we have adoptees that do not have a legal right to their original birth certificates, and how important that is. So we do a variety of workshops on a variety of topics. This year we have a number of authors coming in, and we're actually doing an authors night, at our conference, and we have the authors speaking as our keynotes.
Now, are there the attorneys that participate with the program? Do they help with the legal issues in terms of what the children are looking for?
Actually, we are doing a workshop on legal custody. We're calling it kin and fictive kin. We have a lot of kids who are connected to people who actually have already turned 18, or who get taken away, and we want to put them with relatives or people that are just like relatives. That's where the word fictive kin comes from. These are people like godparents who are not biologically related, but who would step up in a heartbeat once they found out that their godchild is in need. And we do have actually a lawyer. Her name is Margaret Burt, doing presentations on that.
Now, I know you had mentioned very early when you first came on that there's a correlation between homelessness and children who are not taken care of.
Which is the amazing thing. We bring children into our system to protect them up until a certain birthday, and then we put them in more harm's way than they ever were in when we brought them into the system to begin with. There's a philosophy out there that older kids don't need families. They can be independent. They can be on their own. Biggest lie that the system sells. The greatest form of preventable homelessness that exists is kids being discharged from the foster care system and basically let loose upon the land to wander. Those kids need to be in families who are looking out for them long after the years of foster care are over.
I have to be honest with you. There are kids in the foster care system who don't love being in the foster care system, who are afraid of the foster care system. What do you have to say to a child who may be watching tonight? This show is dedicated to children. And they're watching the show and they're like, look, I'm not having the greatest time in this foster care house. There's some issues I'm not agreeing with. What do you tell them?
You tell them, if you're not satisfied with this current placement, talk to people you know and care about, and give those people you got to believe's number, and ask them to call us, and we'll put them through a process where they can get licensed to be your forever family, rather than you continuing to live in your group home or a foster home where you don't know if they're going to be there after you age out of care. So because every kid has got somebody in their life who cares about them, they know who those people are, and they can refer those people to us.
So many times the child knows. The child knows, well,
absolutely.
My basketball coach.
That's right,
or,
exactly.
Somebody that I read books with at the library or helps me out or something
and somebody in a local church, their parents, their best friend's parents. There's an unending pool of construction. If they have a job, it could be somebody who's working with them on the job, the boss or a coworker who happens to be an older person. There are so many people that our kids know that they don't think about it until somebody brings it to their attention.
Well, Pat, great stuff as usual. Thanks for being here.
Well, I appreciate being invited.
My pleasure. Well, that's all for tonight. It's time to deliberate. I'd like to thank both of our guests for joining us, and of course you for watching. Remember, if there's a legal issue or topic you'd like to see on the show, email me at davidlesh@bronxnet.org. And until we see you again, always remember, know your rights, know your issues, reach a verdict. We'll see you next time.